talking about what a big fan Bieber was.
I call him the Biebs, but
Are you a believer? I'm a believer. All right, let's share it.
went back to the gym yesterday for the first time.
How'd that go?
I caught it. About 10 minutes after I got there, I caught it. But
you caught some feelings, is what you caught. No,
yeah.
What are you doing? You mostly doing some cardio.
I do the elliptical. I'm a big elliptical guy.
Yeah.
But I only went half yesterday because it's my first. I haven't done anything. I haven't done anything for like 2 months.
No, you get in there and you start just going in. You could kill yourself. You got to listen to your
body. Bring it back gradually.
Absolutely, that's the way to go. You should be like CrossFit. Oh, I did 150 burpees.
It's really funny. I walk around and I walk right up to people, and I judge their mask right to their face. I say, "That's a good one. Where'd you get it?" I just say stuff like that. It really
judge their mask. I'm doing some mask judging.
Yeah, that's what I do. Some people think it's a little bit too forward. I don't. Okay. Are we ready,
We
Daddy?
are. Let's do it.
It is the Brad and Britt cast. It's our second one for those of you who count, and I know you do this week. Thank you. All right, let's get right to it. Yeah. There are actually a lot of different directions we can go, but I think we can put two people next to each other on the highway going in the same direction, just in different lanes. They would be former coach John Gruden of the Raiders and current Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson of North Carolina, who, as you know, he's getting the national pub, baby. He's getting it because he's speaking his mind. Right. You want to go with Gruden or Robinson first?
Oh, let's do Robinson because he seems to be in a more solid spot. I don't think he's going to lose his job anytime soon. It doesn't seem like.
Well, I would. Hey, Britt, how are you going to move him out? You see what I did there?
You got to. I guess this guy has to be extremely careful when it comes to catching the COVID, because I believe there might be some comorbidities involved if anything happens there. He's got to be real careful.
Oh, that's a fantastic question.
Yeah,
that is something that, of course, that has nothing to do with the reality of the news and the stories and the crap that he is throwing out there. Vaccinations, because here's the guy who is off the charts, right-wing fuckface, separated almost from the rest of the Republican Party in North Carolina. He's that bad because the party is that bad. But they want nothing to do with him. You can tell he's out there on his own. And by the way, my guess is they didn't want to have anything to do with him before. And I can't figure out why that might be. But okay.
But also there's some rest. I mean, it's barely at arm's length. It's not like the stuff that he's saying is so out of step with the Republican Party.
But you'll notice no one on the Republican side is jumping in to defend him. No one has anything to say. This is the North Carolina version of the senators and congresspeople in Washington who, when Trump says or does something idiotic, they didn't read the tweet. They don't know the story. They were busy in a meeting. they have no comment, or they just keep walking and pretend that they had temporary deafness and didn't hear the question. So that's the Republican Party in North Carolina regarding Mark Robinson, the lieutenant governor, who, by the way, on Tuesday afternoon says he's going to hold a press conference. There's been an earlier one by Democrats all over this state who, of course, immediately they go nuclear and say he should resign. And can I just say something? I love you, but don't play that card right off the top, okay? It never works.
Hold on.
No politicians ever resign at the moment of anything. Ralph Northam did not resign in Virginia. And by the way, he has completely vindicated himself over the years. I don't expect that out of Mark Robinson. Ralph Northam for the blackface during medical school or something of that sort.
Why wasn't John Gruden given that opportunity to vindicate himself like Ralph Northam was?
Well, this is the funny thing. When the story first came out, and I think we have permission to just jump around back and forth here, right?
We don't have to.
On the John Gruden story, it broke on Friday in the Wall Street Journal. And at that point, the only thing we were aware of is that John Gruden wrote this email about DeMaurice Smith, the head of the NFL Players Association, what was it, 8 or 10 years ago, and said he was a complete fucking moron and had lips the size of Michelin tires. Now, of course, there's so many things wrong with that. Number one, tires come in a lot of different sizes. You know, when you go to
that is the problem. I'm glad you've nailed that. Yeah.
Right. Did you hear his initial wiggle to try to get out of that? Go ahead. Go ahead.
He said that he's always considered people who lie to have rubber lips, and there's no evidence of that, and that's stupid. And John, stop digging. So that's like just stop digging, and you're nuts, and get out of my face.
So if he would have been 100% sincere, apologetic, and said, I was an idiot. I was wrong. I should have never done that. That's not me. I don't believe that. I have worked with black folks for 40 years. They will testify. But okay, if he would have said that then, that might have been able. Maybe he could have saved it. I don't know. But the weekend goes by. Then the New York Times, those jackal pack lefties from New York, dig into the story. And they find it's not just that; it's years and years and years and thousands of emails.
You can't find a group that he didn't tag. I mean, I'm sure the anti-Semitic stuff was coming.
Maybe it just hasn't been found yet. Yeah, it just hasn't been found.
That must have been coming. So it was misogynistic. He calls Roger Goodell the F word, a slur for gay people. The N word was not actually used, but and then. Last night, the story, of course, is that John Gruden,
you mean faggot and nigger?
those two words.
I wanted to break the ice for you, Britt, because I know you're afraid to say those words.
Thank you, Shock Jock, for saying those words.
We're not on the radio. We're not trying to get ratings. I'm just saying. It just doesn't make sense for us to say N word and F word at this point.
Well, I don't like those words, even if you're illustrating what someone else is saying. But yes, he resigned last night. I suppose we're saying that it was a resignation. I wish that Mark Davis had been given the opportunity to fire him, but he is no longer with us, John Gruden, after some ugly emails that disqualified him as a coach for the National Football League. I was getting
disqualifies him as a citizen.
I was getting, of course, a lot of messages. People know that the Raiders have been my team for nigh on 40 some odd years.
Yeah, Britt, let's do it like a politician. Britt, did you denounce what John Gruden said? We haven't heard a word from you. Why are you so silent?
I think he could have waited this out. Come on. The real surprise he wasn't there on January the 6th trying to kill Mike Pence. I'm surprised that he hasn't shown up at MAGA rallies.
All right, well, holy shit. Here's a procedural question though. Why didn't Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders, fire him on Friday? He let him coach on Sunday.
That's the
Mark
question.
Davis knew, and Mark Davis knew that there was other stuff that was about to hit the fan too, and he let it go through. That's going to be the weekend.
That's going to be the real criticism there. Obviously, is that he should have just tossed him, and he obviously, and now that you go back in time and you see how the Raiders played on Sunday, he lost the team. It looked like he lost the team anyway. Man, I don't know who's left to go. Man, I can really trust and get behind this guy and go out and try to kill myself for this dude. So
Right.
yeah, it's over. There's no defense. The only defense, I guess, is being offered by those tiny dicked white guys over on Barstool or something like that. Maybe some of the people at Fox have turned him into a martyr of some sort. But there's
I
no
think
defense.
you are bringing up the next little elephant that's about to enter the room here.
Yeah.
Which is just when you think something is 100% indefensible,
yeah.
Oh, believe me, someone will come along to defend this as the latest example of cancel culture.
It's so stupid.
Prejudice against white males because what about blah, 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 blah.
They're going to dig up. They'll probably dig up some email that Mike Tomlin, the black coach of the Steelers, what about he said this? You know,
exactly.
It's just idiotic. It's just stupid. Just stop. Just stop with what you're doing.
Right.
This was a huge error. Having this guy back as coach, he can't coach human beings in the National Football League.
But just think how horrendous it was. You know, these were written while he was doing the Monday Night Football games at the beginning, and then later on when he was doing other kind of broadcasting for ESPN. So at the same time, he was on TV, probably saying "quote unquote" the right things. After all, he was working at ESPN, America's most politically correct network, as you know, for a lot of reasons. And you know what? Most of what they do, I think, is right, because politically correct very often is right. But they
get no credit for it.
I understand that.
No
I get it. I get it.
They make the right decision all the time, and they still get fucking pasted.
Of course they do.
And then when they do something really dumb and they run somebody like Jamel Hill, you know, they completely swerve in the other direction. So these guys can't figure out what's going on.
They overcompensate, right? They're bad drivers very often. So he's on TV and radio and probably all their platforms as you know, really one of the major faces of ESPN. And at the same time, he is writing and communicating all this stuff to Bruce Allen, who was running the Washington Redskins. Yeah. Can I still say Redskins?
And by the way,
wait, can I go on an off ramp here for just a second?
Sure.
Okay. This is a long-standing thing that we bring up about once a year. Why the fuck do we still get Washington football games on Sunday here, prioritized over other? I mean, now the Panthers have been around now 35 years. Okay, there is no connection to whatever that was back when, by the way, racism was more overt in the National League. Now we know it's under the surface a little bit more. As if who's sitting there going, there's 3 games on this weekend. Panthers are on, and the Redskins aren't on. I'm not going to watch those other 2 games. Shit, I hate Kansas City. I hate what Tampa Bay.
Wait a minute. We've got this sweet Redskins Jaguars matchup. Let's go ahead and throw that on at 1 o'clock. Everybody wants to see that.
Yeah. Anyway. That's just a. By the way, that's just an off ramp.
Joe Gibbs, of course, the head coach of the Redskins during their heyday, 81 years old. 81 years old. Just throw that in there. Yeah.
Is he still doing the car ownership thing?
I think he's still active. Yeah,
I think
he's still doing some of that stuff. So yes, Gruden was writing. We left you at Gruden was writing emails to Bruce Allen.
Yeah.
And he's going off on players kneeling during the national anthem. Yeah. And Roger Goodell is.
Britt, you can't think of a right-wing culture war issue that he didn't touch on.
It's the worst.
On the wrong side of everything, yeah.
And every time anybody would ever attack me over the Raiders being a garbage organization, it's one of the most progressive franchises in the league, and I've spelled that out.
Not anymore.
And now
they lost that one.
This asshole who look, you're in the same position that John Madden and Tom Flores were in. You're in that same position. You have a responsibility. Those are 2 Hall of Famers. John Madden's a fucking national treasure. Tom Flores just won the National Football League, first Hispanic coach in league history. You're in that same position, and you're out there hating on everything that is anything. And Jesus Christ.
That's about as effective as saying that Donald Trump, why didn't you realize that you were living in the same place working in the same job that George Washington and Abe Lincoln. Why did you behave that way? It doesn't work that way, Britt.
I expect anything out of anybody more than I expect anything out of Donald Trump. And again, I expect John Gruden just to lean into this. Go get flown up to Jersey or Mar-a-Lago and have dinner with that fat fuck, that fat orange fuck, and you guys can talk about how small your dicks are and how white people are getting killed in America. That's what I want to. I'm surprised that Gruden wasn't anti-vax. I'm sure he was. I'm surprised that he wasn't out there screaming about the anti-vax shit, about how Joe Biden's trying to kill America with a vaccine.
I believe the only problem that you just with what you just said is we just don't know yet, and we can assume that what you're right is true. By the way, same thing with Mark Robinson, who by definition has to be radical on the government shouldn't tell anybody to get a vaccine.
Has to be.
Right? He has to be 5 steps to the right of everybody on that, because he's about freedom. He's about freedom here in North Carolina. And here he is, a completely blubberous, overweight, high-risk, fat guy and minority who needs the vaccination as much as anybody. And if he does have it and doesn't say so, then that just puts him in that category of frauds who are either agnostic about their own vaccination status and refuse to use the power or whatever authority they supposedly have to encourage other people to get it, or he really isn't vaccinated. And, we wish him well on the ventilator, which may have to be powered by a Ferrari engine, because he probably needs a little bit more power to breathe. Was that mean? Did I just go over the line there?
You can't be serious in that the Republican Party in North Carolina is truly distancing themselves from Mark Robinson. I mean,
they are. Yes, they are.
It's the faintest way, Brad. It's the most fake, and it's the most minimal way. Oh, that's
I don't think
bad.
So.
You got to stop doing that. No, come on. Get out of my face with that stuff.
Britt, they haven't even said that. They haven't even done that. And they know, they know that he is a toxic thing.
How is he toxic?
They don't, Britt, they don't gain votes by going with Mark Robinson.
What is what he's saying? Wait a minute. What is what he's saying so different than what Donald Trump is saying? It's not that different. And they're pledging their allegiance to Donald John Trump. It's not quite that. I mean, he's going a little far with the homophobic stuff. Trump isn't overtly out there on that stuff, but it's not that different than the Donald Trump that they're pledging allegiance to support in 2024.
I know, but if we can just not for 1 second use Trump as
you just did with John Gruden. You were just comparing Gruden to Trump.
That's different. They're both guys with formerly blonde hair. It's different.
They can't distance themselves from Mark Robinson. They can't, and they love what he's doing.
Britt, I know they really can't, but they try through their silence, and of course, silence is complicity. Silence is complicity.
Of course it is.
Okay, so if the Democrats, everyone from Roy Cooper, down to the first person to vote Democratic at age 18 right now, knows what Mark Robinson is and what he's all about. Plus the slice of quote unquote normal Republicans in this state who don't want to have that much to do with Mark Robinson either. And that's a small slice, but you add that together with the Democrats and you don't have any kind of a majority at all. You don't have an electable.
So what you're saying is the Republican excuse for Mark Robinson is, hey, you didn't hear me jumping on board and saying amen to that guy. So obviously I disagree with that's, and you're right.
But that's what they do. But you're right. That's what they do. Right. I mean, you're right. He is saying what they would like to say.
Yeah.
But true. He is such an unfiltered goof, an unfiltered oaf, and thinks that America's been waiting for a larger version of Archie Bunker as a politician who doesn't realize what he's saying, and that'll work because the Trump example always is out there for Republican whack job. And all we've said, all of us for months and months now, is nobody can do Trump's act. They all may try, but they can't do it. At the same time, they want and need his endorsement. They need him to not be against them.
Right.
So you are correct, and I hope you're so right about this, that it's too much catnip for Trump to be quiet about this. I mean, in fact, Trump is probably agonizing right now. Who do I jump in for more quickly now? Mark Robinson or John Gruden? Which one? Which one?
Why can't
it's got to be tough for him.
Well, you can fly them both in. I don't understand. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you'd have to have a very large table to fit Mark Robinson there, but they can get one, and they would have all three of them sitting there and take the picture with their big thumbs up and all this other shit. They can do all that.
That's the picture of the decade if that one happens.
It's the dream scenario. But yeah, I mean, they can't truly. There's no way, because this is your Frankenstein monster in a lot of ways. Mark Robinson is the North Carolina Republican Party's wet dream. They can't acknowledge it, but yeah, he fights all of the culture wars. He says all of the right shit. All of the shit that you've ever heard coming from Fox News is vomited out of this guy's mouth. And now it's like, yeah, I don't know. That stuff about the gay stuff, I didn't join in on that, so obviously I'm not part of that. You can't do that.
But wait, what you bring up though is possibly able to be spun as advantageous to Republicans, because as long as they keep themselves really pretty separate from him, okay? Because remember, lieutenant governor, it's a weird position to begin with in North Carolina.
It is.
No one really aspires to it.
It's largely ceremonial. It's largely a ceremonial position.
That's right. And
if the governor gets shot, then we've got an issue, but that hasn't happened in a while.
Right. And then remember, I mean, the rest of every position at that, Secretary of State, Attorney General, this is a Democratic state at the wide state level in state government, except for him, except for Mark Robinson. And we don't have enough time to go back to the election last year to figure out how the fuck did Roy Cooper, the Democrat, get reelected, and somehow not enough of those same people voted for the Democrat running for lieutenant governor. And this goofball out of nowhere, who's done nothing in his life except make one speech that went viral on what, TikTok or Twitter about,
YouTube,
and I don't even remember what was it about when he did that.
It was about the goddamn gun show, and the mayor saying that after after the shooting that maybe it's not a great idea to have a gun show here at the Coliseum, and this asshole gets up there in front of the city council and goes off on the Second Amendment and goes through every stupid ass talking point that you've ever heard your entire life. There wasn't an original thought in there, and he screams and he blusters, and I'm surprised he didn't have a stroke, but he's up there and he becomes the new Ben Carson. Because that's how Ben Carson got his position and became this cause celeb in the Republican Party.
Right, but to me, this is actually more.
It's disgusting.
Terrible. This is even more of an example of why there should. And again, I'm not being literal here, but I'm speaking with you, and why there should be no social media, because this cannot be the way that a person ultimately gets elevated to the second highest office in one of the 50 states of the United States. It just can't be. And by the way, it's equally horrible that someone was elevated to the presidency of the United States because they were on a show where he fired Meatloaf, okay?
Yeah.
And people thought he was a great
businessman,
legitimate, decisive guy who could run rings around everybody because he was a financial wizard. Okay, and, I mean, as you know, we sadly compare everything to Trump here. But just here with this Mark Robinson, it's horrible. That is horrible. And then the next step that he got on the ballot, he won the primary because he had name recognition because of a stupid little moment where he rants about guns, and the next thing, he's the lieutenant governor of this state. It's
you're
just
right.
Horrible. It's just
I'm hoping that the inherent racism of the Republican Party does win out, and this guy is eventually shoved aside. I think you're onto the right track there. Eventually, they do figure out, oh, he is black, and they shove. He's serious.
They had noticed that.
Yeah, it's that guy, because it's very helpful for the Republican Party, to have He provides a lot of cover, right? They do this on Fox News all the time when they'll get a black guy on there to bitch about Joe Biden, right? And it provides cover. You can't call us racist. Look at us. How awesome are we?
Right. But he's destined, and I'm not watching that much Fox, so I don't know. He's destined to be a go-to guest on that network all the time.
Of course.
Right? I mean, he could be like Lindsey Graham. They could be talking to him about everything. Well, and within the state of North Carolina, he holds no sway. Nobody listens to a fucking thing he says. And the only time he ever makes the headlines is for all these stupid, dumb things that he says. He doesn't do anything. But you can see, you can bypass the old cliche because it doesn't really apply anymore. All politics is local. No, it is not. All politics is national until proven otherwise, because that's all that matters is getting on TV.
You mentioned
Lindsey Graham. Sean Hannity.
Yeah. You mentioned Lindsey Graham, and they should have the two, have them on together on Fox News and have him talk about that filth stuff and just see how uncomfortable Lindsey gets. I'm not sure. I got to go. I have another golf game with the president, the former president. I got to get out.
That'd be nice.
But he's always, there's no distancing. This guy's dreadful, and he continues to double and triple down on stuff, and he's not really rebuked by the Republican Party. But again, at some point in time, they'll find it very convenient, the Republican Party is, to kind of brush him aside. He's not going to be the nominee for governor in 2024. He just isn't. They're not going to allow that to happen. Really? But if he is, but please, if you want to do it, Republican Party in North Carolina, please make this the guy. I want you to please run this guy.
I don't know what the rules are. Hang on. I don't know what the rules are, but they may not be able to stop him. This is a guy whose ambition is all about himself. He's not there to represent the Republican Party or whatever the fuck it is in this state, which is, the same nihilistic group of bandits that are.
But they'll use the machinations and the machinery of the Republican Party to run another guy who's going to be white against him and try to push that guy past Mark Robinson.
And guess what? I have news for you. People don't listen to what, quote, the party wants anymore. They love electing people who are mavericks, who don't listen to what the party bosses tell them.
How's that
and that
working
is
out?
Democrats and Republicans.
How's that working out? Where is Sarah Palin today? Is she in the White House signing bills?
Because I'm not saying that it works every time. Please. I'm not saying that you automatically get elected, but in terms of bypassing,
Mark Robinson please let him be the nominee for governor in 2024. Please let that happen, Republican Party. If you can get behind that guy, that would be the dream scenario, because he's an absolute disaster. He's a walking absolute disaster.
All right, let's play a what if game. Let's play this is not going to happen. It can't happen. It won't happen. But based on the heat around this guy's name right now, the publicity he's getting, the pushback he is getting from the entire Democratic universe in North Carolina and beyond, all the way up to Joe Biden, right? Everyone's had something to say about him. If he tomorrow said, you know what, it'd be a good gig for me, U.S. Senator.
Yeah.
Okay. And Pat McCrory and Ted Budd and Mark Walker, those are the three guys. Former Governor McCrory, Congressman Ted Budd, endorsed by Trump himself.
That's right.
And Mark Walker, former congressman who left the building because he was getting gerrymandered in reverse. He said, I'm leaving. Yeah. No, you want me, the plain spoken.
Go for it.
I believe he could get the Republican nomination for senator this fall.
That's tough.
This fall coming up.
That's tough because Daddy already told the Republican voters to go for Ted Budd, so they're going to be
and by the way, yes, Donald Trump has never been known to switch his loyalties, because he is as loyal a person. His word is as good as gold. He would never change.
I'd love for him to leave that loser Ted Budd on the side of the road and throw all of his support behind Mark Robinson. I think that'd be fantastic. I think that'd be wonderful. I mean, his support, by the way, Donald Trump's support is for sale to the highest bidder. If Mark Robinson gets some sort of donor behind him to throw a bunch of money at Trump to get him on board, Donald Trump will switch horses. Absolutely. That'll 100% happen. Donald Trump's it's the old joke. Donald Trump's a whore. We're just trying to negotiate price at this point.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to Gruden here for a second, because this is way bigger now than just him. He's
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, wait a minute. I have to go through the other jokes. We're used to, as a Raiders fan, we're used to our play on the field being the national joke. That's what we're used to being. But now this is apparently, of course, the national punchline, which it should be.
This reverberates way beyond just the Raiders and John Gruden and the rest. I mean, this is a whole league-wide thing because the NFL has spent the last several decades pretending to diversify, whether it's in coaching hires. You know, they make one step forward, then they take two steps back. You know, one year there'll be 2 or 3 minority coaches. Next thing you know, 5 years later, they're back down to 1 again. They just can't find any other minority coaches that are suitable to coach losing teams in the NFL. Because remember, at least half of them are losers every year. Some of them perennial losers. But
that's true.
The statistics I think that the NFL put out itself that 47% of football fans who watch, and I think there's like 170 million people when they're polled, say they're so that's more than half the. I'm a football fan. 47% of those people are women. So they've done a good. I mean, you see the commercials all the time. It's the women wearing the NFL jerseys I mean, they did that. They did diversify, at least on the surface. But you're not a player. I'm not a player. If you're a black athlete in the NFL, you're not quite so dazzled by the PR strategy, by what you see in public service announcements or community outreach that may be done in each city by a few players here or there. Because for the most part, as we've learned with the John Gruden emails, there is still at some level with some people a very, very horrendous old style brand of racism that is so deep and so entrenched, and by the way, is impossible to ferret out just by assuming, well, if we just look at everybody's emails over the last, I mean, what's going to happen? Does everybody have to show their cards here on how they've been communicating with each other? Is there going to be the, I hate to use the W word, witch hunt throughout the league to quote clean themselves? I don't know.
You're almost trying to play the Barstool card on this, like, because I'm hearing various like, oh, it was 10 years ago. Okay, what period of time would make it not okay? 5, 3, 6? How tall do you have to be to ride the ride? Yeah, there needs to be a looking at what people have said. If you were that awful in all of your communications and you felt very comfortable talking about black people's lips and about being as awful as you were, I mean, I'm sorry, that comes from your heart. That's not something that changes. You know, in the 10 years since I wrote that thing about the black guy's huge lips, I've really had time to reflect. No, that's a no sale. And I saw somebody said that Randy Moss was actually in tears about this. These are guys in the locker room. You're asked to sacrifice your health, years off your life, possibly your memory. And all you want to know is that the guy who's in charge and telling you to go out there and go run through a wall cares about you. And if you think he's some plantation master, which is what looks like John Gruden was, let's just be real about that. I don't want to do that. If he thinks you are a piece of property worth 3/5 of a human being, I don't want to do that. So I think it's perfectly fine to go, I need to know kind of what's in your heart, sir, as you're making $10 million a year for me to go out there and sacrifice my future. I think that's completely appropriate. And again, as you know, we are in these times where you got to pick a side. There's no agnosticism on any of this shit. They've pulled back. They got the guys not to kneel during the national anthem. We've got them calmed down for now, but there's some very serious issues out there, and I need to know exactly where you stand on it. That I don't think that's unrealistic at all.
I think Gruden, however, may be, I can't say this for sure because I don't know, he really may be an extremely special case. He may be, and I don't think it would be fair. I really don't think it would be fair to ascribe John Gruden brand of racism league wide or with other people, because just like with, and you and I listen to Gilbert Gottfried's podcast all the time. One of the recurring names that always comes up is Jerry Lewis. All right. Yeah. And with Jerry Lewis, half the people will say he was just a complete prick. He was an asshole. And then the other group will say, he was nice to me. He was great to me. Now, with John Gruden, I don't think there are a lot of people who are stepping forward even today to say, you know what? He was great to me. I think he was thought of as an asshole by just about everybody. And therefore you go, well, why did they hire him? And of course, because he had one Super Bowl ring and he sounded like he knew what he was saying on TV. There's a good reason to hire someone. People on TV who sound like they know what they're doing, they're always the best.
How did Donald Trump pick his cabinet? I mean, Larry Kudlow and all these other.
That's right. Yeah, someone.
Right. I mean, come on.
Right. Okay. So in other words, let's just pick a name as close to us as possible here in the NFL. Matt Rule is the coach of the Carolina Panthers.
Right.
Seems to me to be a fully 100% upstanding guy.
Sure.
No issues of that sort. And the owner of the Panthers, at least these days, they did get rid of the plantation owner who started the team and owned it for 33 years.
Yeah, but they took down his statue, so now I don't even know who he is.
Right. It doesn't matter, right? He never existed. But David Tepper, the owner, and he may be the richest owner in the league now. I'm pretty sure he is.
Probably.
He is a Jewish liberal from Pittsburgh who has donated his time and money to every cause that you and I might think that's good. That's good stuff that he does. And the Panthers, they're not the LA Raiders. There it is. I did it. The Las Vegas Raiders.
You were two stops behind.
Yeah. And I think, most teams are that way too, but that doesn't mean that, you've got assistant coaches, you've got trainers, you got people who've been part of the league for a long time, maybe behind people's backs. That's how they were too. And then if you have 70% of your workforce being minority, you've got a toxic brew there that if confidence isn't restored, and by the way, who better to restore confidence than Roger Goodell? Okay, a guy who's managed to fumble the ball more than Ernest Biner running into the end zone for the Cleveland Browns. Sorry. I'm still shaken by that. The fumble.
Well, that conversation is taking place in offices around the NFL. Like, if there's any emails or any missives that you've ever sent to anyone where you've slurred, well, let's run down the list: women, homosexuals, Jews, Norwegians. You need to fucking let me know right now, because
so we can delete them, so we can get rid of them.
This needs to happen so that we can talk right now, because we got and by the way, the NFL, as you've seen, they're all in on this social change. They've got the end racism stuff in the end zone.
Right.
They've got, so you can't be half-assing this. You can't be like, hey, we're kind of up there, because this let's be honest about this. Part of those slogans that are on the helmets in the end zone was to appease these guys so that they would please stop kneeling during the national anthem. Please, we'll do whatever. We'll put an MLK sticker on your helmet. We'll do whatever it takes to get you to stop kneeling during the national anthem.
I did run by, as I was looking to read up on this. Of course, the Tucker Carlson founded Daily Caller. He's not there anymore. He doesn't work for them anymore. But that's his DNA all over that piece of shit.
Oh, and thanks for that image. I really appreciate that.
They went hard and heavy and went through the story. And my guess is if I was a right-wing conservative asshole on TV or radio right now, I would just say it this way. So, NFL, just tell us how woke you really are.
God.
What are they going to say?
This is not this was not a hard call. Like you said, the criticism is going to be this should have happened 5 days ago, which is fine, and you can go through that and say that Mark Davis should have fired him or whatever. This is there's some hard calls in life. There's some easy. This is an easy call.
But the story now isn't just when was it's what happened. That's a procedural question. That's
completely legitimate for somebody from 10 years ago who was using slurs like that and felt comfortable enough to spread them around and put them in writing. If you feel comfortable enough to communicate that, put it in writing and email it to stuff, then you're a piece of shit. I'm sorry, and you can't in 10 years. I traveled to Johannesburg and I saw the light and I'm a different person now. Fuck you. No, that's not the case. I'm sorry.
But Britt, you forgot the time-tested winner here. Ready? That was during John Gruden's youthful years. He was only 48 then.
It was a youthful. No, I mean,
youthful indiscretion. Youthful indiscretion, right?
I'm not even going to talk. I mean, I don't even think there's a due diligence thing here. If they were able to, these things just got dug up out of whatever. I don't blame. I honestly, I was never in favor of him being hired back as the head coach. I thought Jack Del Rio was doing a pretty good job with the team. But okay, we'll roll with this guy. Now it's turned out to be a flaming pile of shit rolling down the hill. There's no other way to describe it. It's terrible. It's a national punchline. And I always was proud of that organization for being very progressive. And now, as you say, that's gone up in flames. That's just death. I hope none of this actually sticks to the organization, but again, I'm being extremely naive. Hopefully,
I'll tell you, the only way they pull themselves out of this one, they need to hire as their next head coach Barack Obama. That might help. But I don't think it would. It might not even do the trick.
Here's what we got. Barack as head coach, Michelle as assistant. We're good. Everybody fine. All forgiven. We're good here in Vegas. Yeah. And again, for all these assholes that are trying to defend this and see this as a cause celebre to lift up white, just shut up.
Boy,
just shut the fuck up.
If you get on this train,
God damn, really?
It brings up that eternal question that always revolves back to what happened with Trump, which is as revelation after gaffe, after racist, after everything that would happen, and we would say, well, he can't survive this. You got to get rid of him. And after the Access Hollywood tape, or as it's more popularly known and fucked up by the Hollywood Access tape, hear it all the time. I love
Hollywood Access.
They always call it the Hollywood Access tape. It's Access Hollywood tape. That was it. It was over. People Reince Priebus threw in the towel. They all threw in the towel.
They did
on Trump. And we would keep asking, so what would it take for Republicans to abandon Trump? And the we found out later was
nothing.
Okay?
There's nothing.
So the equivalent response here by the NFL, if Donald Trump was the commissioner of the league and ran the NFL the way he ran the country and ran his campaign and ran his life, would be to stand behind John Gruden. Okay. It would be to stand behind him. And say that was 10 years ago. He's not that kind of guy now. Shut up. We got a game Sunday. So again, that's not going to happen. It didn't happen. It wouldn't happen. But it shows how crazy it was when it did happen in the political realm, with the excuses, with the ignoring of what Trump did day after day, month after month, year after year. Okay. So bottom line, the NFL, not quite as bad as the Republican Party. How about that? We have to make comparisons here.
I hope that's not the standard.
Right. Is the NFL going to stick with Grudenism? No. It was not their thing. It really wasn't. Should the Republican Party stick with it? But again, the analogy is this. Remember the reason that people stick with Trump within the Republican world. It's because they're afraid of the voters. They're afraid they're going to get primary. They're afraid they're going to lose their job in politics, elected to whatever it is that they're elected to. And that's only because there is support from a voting standpoint by enough people that politicians are afraid of that. I feel pretty secure in saying that John Gruden does not have voter support, fan support, public support. So he's gone.
Well,
So
the NFL's not able to game the system with fan suppression enough.
Right.
To
They can't. Right. They can't
do
turn
that.
his words around. They can't change it. They can't say he never said that.
Right.
They can't deny that he said that.
And
They can't do any
I was
of
going to
those
say
things.
there's not really a channel that would completely like defend him, but I guess Barstool really is going to be the mouthpiece for defending John Gruden, excusing his bad behavior. So maybe John Gruden does have like a 24-hour channel where he'll be defended and everything else will be minimized and everything else.
Yeah, but
yeah. So the
What
NFL. I wanted to finish up on this note because I was looking at this story. I don't want to we can't get too far into this about. The Southwest CEO says 0 flights were canceled due to the vaccine protests. He blames Biden for the requirements and stuff like that. They've had all kinds of problems with Southwest Airlines.
Wait, stop the music here. I'm just looking at the headline. All right.
Yeah. You want
it? Before you tell me what they wrote, this fucking Mediaite, here we go again. All right.
Off.
I saw the interview with Gary Kelly of Southwest. All right. And he was on the 9 o'clock hour with Kramer and David Faber and Carl Quintanilla, and they grilled him pretty hard. They did not let him up off the mat. Okay. But to his credit, guess what? He showed up. Mark Zuckerberg. Kelly showed up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's the first thing. But okay, so he showed up. Now, did he lie? Did he try to pretend that what happened didn't happen, or that you're crazy for bringing up the fact that a couple thousand flights? No, he didn't do that. He did not do that. And they asked him from 5 different directions. Was this about pilots revolting because of the vaccine mandate? And Southwest does not even have one.
No.
They do not have one for their pilots. They should. I think that's the problem. They really should. But they don't. And I really do think, after listening to him and listening to other airline analysts, Southwest has a business model, the way they fly, that's different from all the other airlines. All the other airlines have where they send everybody to Atlanta or Charlotte or Dallas and distribute it. And when you have a fuck up in that situation, it's much easier to regain your feet when flights get canceled, because everything is in point to point. Southwest, there are no hubs like that. They don't do it that way. You go from point to point, and they're overweighted in Florida really heavily. I mean, they just dominate Florida.
Because a lot of people in Florida are overweight, so that's how that works.
Exactly.
I've been in favor of corporations. I've never been in favor of corporations imposing that kind of mandate. Kelly told CNBC, I'm not in favor of that, never have been. But the executive order from President Biden mandates that all federal employees and all federal contractors, which covers all major airlines, have to have a vaccine mandate in place by December the 8th. That's right. A quote.
Right. So Southwest is under the same federal mandate by association, because since airlines use airports, which are federally funded and have, in effect, federal workers doing maintenance and keeping the airports running, yes, they have to have their employees vaccinated. So it's not on him, but he's not any different than United or American or Delta. That's the point. So it would make no sense to say that suddenly the Southwest pilots are acting differently than the United pilots or the Delta pilots or the American. It didn't happen that way. But guess who got involved? I don't know if this is in that story or not. I haven't read it. Guess who threw his weight into the story? Donald Trump Jr. He's the one that fucking tweeted out that it was a strike by the pilots over the onerous vaccine mandate. That tells you everything you need to know. Southwest, which of course has had really kind of the best reputation in the entire airline industry. They really have. Again, you can build up something over decades, 30, 40, 50 years, and lose it in a day. Have they lost their goodwill with the public over this? I don't know. I think most people in this case are willing to certainly not say, I'm never flying Southwest again. Of course, most people don't have a choice. There's only a few places in the country where you have a couple different airlines that fly the same routes. So you're kind of stuck anyway.
And that's become sort of this thing that you have various right wingers that are praising the Southwest pilot walking out when in fact they didn't walk out. That's not what's happened.
So why did that just happen? Because they want it to be that way. They want it to be that way. It can't just be. Yeah, that tells you everything you need to know.
That's
Trump,
everything.
right wingers praise anti-vax Southwest pilot. They're not anti-vax. Jesus Christ, they're no more anti-vax than any other group of people who are arrogant and think they're God. And pilots, of course, for the most part, are arrogant and think they're God.
So the question I would ask you, and I was kind of noodling over this one, if Donald Trump had been reelected, do you think you would see as much resistance among conservatives to the vaccine, or do you think that they would see getting that vaccine as being a favor to their boy? They have to do it for the president. We got to go out and get this shot.
That, you know what? That's a coin flip.
Yeah.
That's a coin flip because opposition to Dr. Fauci, of course, predated the election. It was still there. Opposition to medical expertise has been there for forever, not just with the coronavirus vaccine. And I don't think that Donald Trump would have suddenly become this spokesperson for responsible vaccination.
No, but if he sees himself as getting credit for the vaccine and he's in office, he can rally his people and say, you're going to do this for me. This is another thing you need to do for me. If we get vaccinated, I get credit for this, and I've beaten it. This is another great feather in my cap. You don't see it? I
don't know. I don't know how he would pull that 180, because remember, leading up to the election, leading up to the election, as the vaccine was developed, and I don't know. I don't have an answer. You might be right. Which,
and this is where both sides are not the same. For the people who are like, oh, the left does this and the right, and they're all the same. There would, if that would have been the case, and there would have been a drive to a lot of conservatives, like there would have been no liberals going, I'm not going to fucking get that shot because it helps out Donald Trump. I'm not getting it. Fuck
that is
you.
the truth. Yeah.
So, I mean,
you're right. No, you know what? It would be sad. It would be pathetic. It would be horrible if you were right, and you might be. That's what it might have taken to slice off another 10 or 15% of the vaccine refuseniks for Trump. Isn't that a political action committee? Vaccine refuseniks for Trump
should be.
To have gone out and gotten vaccinated. If all the Fox News people were on board, if they were the leading vaccine proponents for the last 8 months, instead of doing what they have been doing, would there be a higher vaccination rate nationally? Yeah, there probably would have. You're talking me into this, and it's ridiculous. It's absurd. It's completely stupid. Because you're right. I certainly, I know you thought, but most of us were thinking the same thing when that news broke, and it's been about a year since we first learned that there really was a vaccine. That should be an anniversary. You know,
well, he was pissed because they held back the idea. Remember, that was one of his list of grievances, was they held back the news of the vaccine until after the election, and it didn't help him out, and he was all pissed about that. Remember that whole deal?
Right. So we're closing in on a year of that, and I don't recall for 1 minute ever thinking, and I think I speak for every rational person in the country, thinking, boy, when that vaccine comes out, I'm going to get it or I'm not going to get it based on who wins the presidential election. I'm waiting to decide. I mean, that's crazy. It turns out that a lot of people did, at a certain level, whether they know it or not, use that as the criteria by which they decided to get vaccinated or not vaccinated. And not only that, like so many other things, they were hoodwinked and they were lied to. And they acted against their own interests, because here's the guy who they demanded should have gotten more credit for helping to fund the vaccine, Operation Warp Speed, which, okay, we'll pretend for just a second that no other president would have thrown lots of money and resources into getting a vaccine if they were president back in early 2020, right? No other. Okay, we'll pretend for a second that he deserves some level of special credit for that. That being said, where was the vaccine resistance movement all the way through the development of it till the moment that we found out it was real? Was it there? Were people saying in April or May of 2020, when things were at their worst, right? When we really had a bad surge, it was terrible. We're losing 3,000-4,000 people a week. Were they saying before the vaccine, if it comes out in 6 months, I'm definitely not going to get it because it will not have been tested enough. I will need to do more research on it myself. No, they were not saying that.
Stop.
They were not saying that. So now, as we sound this out, I think you may be 100% right, because it was the election of Joe Biden that hardened the cement.
Of course.
It hardened the cement. And
you mean Joe Biden
easy.
stealing the election from the duly elected Donald Trump? That's what you mean.
It goes without saying. It goes without saying. But yeah, of course. So, So would America be better off? This is the horrible question. Would America be better off in total if Donald Trump had been reelected, had the vaccine refuseniks not become as adamant and ugly as they were? There would have been no January 6th. There would have been, had Trump won fair and square, had he won.
Essentially, what you're saying is, you would have tamped down the resistors for at least a little. You'd have delayed them actually attacking people for a little while longer, because they were still terrorists and they were still going to do something, but they would have been appeased by their boy's reelection. So, I'm not willing to go that far. If America would have been better, I'll take the trade. I'll take the trade.
Well, I know, of course, of course. Here,
even with my $3.13 a gallon gas in North Carolina, oh my God, it's the end of the world. It's $3.13. I don't know what to do. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We very seldom do just a two twin topic day. This is an interesting day.
We had a lot to say.
Yeah. And I've got some things on the sheet that we never got to, and maybe we'll get to them tomorrow. Maybe we won't.
Possibly.
We don't. Because there may be another coach that gets fired at 4:00. We don't know.
We don't know.
Oh,
yeah, it's a tease. See us tomorrow to see if we get to the stuff on the stack of stuff.
Yeah, let's see if I can go over shop worn, outdated crap on Wednesday. That's a good idea.